I've spent so much money on different coaches, consultants, and different things. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's horrible, but every dollar I spend with these guys, like
with PVD and Valuetainment,
it just comes back 10 times.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Stick Talk podcast. We're on the road yet again here in Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Florida. Here with our good friend Aaron. What's going on, man?
A whole lot. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, a whole lot, bro. We're at the
4 years of storylines to catch up on, huh?
Yeah. So we were just talking about it off camera, but Aaron and I were on a sales call for your new business, Sales Momentum, Hubspot, basically done for your Hubspot implementation. And at the end of the call, you're like, yo, let me just give you my number in case you need anything. And I shoot you a text, and like I saw messages from 2020, 4 years before. And so I was just thinking, man, what happened in between those 4 years? Like a lot.
Yeah, well, I was looking back through our texts. I know, do you remember Elliot?
Yeah. Dude, I was going to ask you about Elliot.
Program.
Yep.
And then you're in socialX.
Yep.
And then you were doing Kennected.
Yep.
And then now we're talking about Sales Momentum.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, Elliot was an absolute legend, dude. When we started our agency, he like gave us Kennected for free. Yeah. Like, because we could not afford to pay the setup fee, which I'm sure you guys...
$14.97.
Yeah, it was like $14.97. We were like, dude, like, we can't afford it. We were using like Meet Alfred for
that was like our startup capital to start the
yeah.
business. It was like $1,500. We're good.
I'm like, I'm believing this.
What were we even using it for at the time? We weren't even doing cold outreach.
LinkedIn outreach we were using
to sign clients for our own business.
Yeah.
I just, like, $14.97, that number, like, my wife, like, when I was running and doing the Kennected stuff, $14.97 would come out of my mouth like sleeping. Like I was doing like demos and
what's
stuff.
that meme where it's like he's thinking about other women and you're just like $14.97?
It was terrible. I would literally like she'd be sleeping and she's like, "Yeah, you were doing another demo in your sleep." I was like, God,
practicing, bro.
I got to get out of here.
Talk about the reasoning behind that for a software to have an onboarding fee of $1,500 and $14.97.
Well, so when we were getting the sales team started, it was the only way that we could actually have a sales team, right? Because there's a lot of SaaS companies out there that have low subscription, free trials, stuff along those lines, and their entire team or sales team is trying to sell, $100 subscriptions, right?
Where's the commission?
Subscriptions. So unless you have a lot of startup capital or whatever, you can't really afford a sales team because you can't build, like, what are they going to build? $10,000 of MRR? Like that's,
it's $1,000 maybe.
Clients, maybe.
Yeah.
So for us, the clients that were coming on, one, they never set it up. So how do we, get commitment that we're going to help them set it up? It's an onboarding fee. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, how do we get our sales team to actually produce income and make money for themselves? $14.97. So it just happened that way. And they were doing that in the beginning, I think, to do the capital. And I don't think they realized how smart of a move that was
for retention.
It just became a thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we were able to go from when I came on 0 salespeople to 65. Outgrowing 2 offices and a whole bunch of other
Unreal.
Stuff.
Yeah, we'll go more into the Kennected story because there's so much to unpack there. Yeah. But let's go all the way back to socialX because that's how we initially got connected. So basically, background on that, Christian and I had a podcast in college, and I think we interviewed JCab at some point.
Yeah.
And he was telling us about socialX, and then he put me in touch with you, and we joined. And so tell us a little bit about what socialX was and just some of the good memories you have running the business.
Oh, man. There's a lot of them. socialX was probably by far the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, not just like the relationship sides, like the conversation that we had where we shot a text and it was like, oh, there's my socialX.
It's like a socialX Calendly link.
Yeah. That happens all the time.
Really?
All the time, still today. So socialX, so before socialX, I in school started a bikini company, and it did really
Smart
well.
Man.
So yeah, I was social chair at my fraternity, and Ty Lopez was really big.
Okay.
So I saw his ads and I was like, all right, drop shipping, like let's try it. Why
it.
not? So we bought a bunch of bikinis, gave them all away for free to the sororities, and they started posting about it, and then we made all of our stuff on our website, $19.99. Everything was the same price, and it just started blowing up. So I dropped out of school and started kind of a marketing company, negotiated office space basically with a modeling agency in Orlando. Hired a bunch of my friends from high school, and we started a marketing company, and Delphini was kind of running in the background. Fast forward, I met Justin at an event in Miami, actually, it was a Grant Cardone event.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys remember, trying to remember what it was. You guys remember, I Come Up?
No.
That sounds so familiar.
I don't remember who's
I Come
running
Up,
it.
was
Why
it
does
like a
that sound
group
so
or an
familiar?
event?
Dude, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah. Anyways, we went to an event down in Miami, met Justin at Sugar, if you guys know where Sugar is.
Is that the one in Brickell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we just got to talking, and he was like, I want to do an event. He called me a week or two after. He's like, hey, I want to do an event. I was like, yeah, let's freaking do it. So I drove down to Tampa. We threw a website together, and, socialX was kind of born there. And it went from a 50 person, let's have a meetup, to 100 people, to Justin wanting to do this massive 350 person thing. And and then really we got about a month and a half out. We had little to no tickets sold, and we were freaking out. Justin put kind of all of his money in. We were losing our minds, not sleeping, and we realized all right, well, let's hide the ticket pricing. And the next day we woke up with 100 leads. So I started calling, and we sold out the event, and it was really awesome. And were you at the first socialX?
No, we joined after the event, and the marketing from the event does everything, because people see that and they're like, I want to be at the next one.
Yeah. So we had the event, and it was awesome. It was 3 days. I mean, think the whole nine, really nice location. We had party buses pick everybody up the first night, take them to this other location. It was a bunch of vendors, artists, DJ. It was awesome. Next day was more conference style, and then it was a workout with all the speakers, VIP, and then we went to water.
In Tampa?
Yeah, in Tampa.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
So it was this 3-day event, and dude, everybody that was doing something now.
The whole event sounded so good until water.
I was 20. It was great. I was living life. So, anyways, we do this event, and we thought we were gonna make money from ticket sales and stuff. Anyways, we lost a ton of money. Yeah, of course. And but everybody was contacting us hey, what's next? We want to do something next. What's next? What's next? So we basically came up with a crowdsourced consulting model almost. That was kind of how it started. Is we were gonna go get the big names. They were gonna come in and coach these pods of people, right, every other week. So we were doing coaching calls weekly, bring in the speakers weekly. It was just this monster of we were able to go get big names because we had an audience of a bunch of startups, of young people that wanted to learn from different people. So we were just connectors, and then we started putting services behind it and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it was awesome. I mean, we did a few events in Miami. We did one in Mexico. We were kind of flying all over the place, and it was great. And then it wasn't. And and it kind of fell apart, but it was definitely the catalyst, because I was young. I didn't have any real value to give people, because I didn't have any experience.
Yeah.
But we had all of the connections to not just the consumers of the information that we're bringing to the table, but we also had the connections to the actual producers,
the experts
of the information, right? So we were able to build relationships with them by giving them value to an audience, and then also taking the audience and giving them value through the speakers. And it just created a really badass community.
It was fire, bro.
It was awesome, right?
You guys did so many things that we even still do in our community today.
Yeah.
Just, so many great ideas in there. I remember you guys had a Google spreadsheet of all the members, and on that first onboarding call, you're helping me put together an email to reach out to every single one of them.
Yeah.
And that's how I started to get on calls. So I got on a call with 4 people that I still know, Jordan, we were talking about.
Yep.
Nick Mullen is who I met from there. Just so many guys that I still am connected with and are crushing it from that one Google spreadsheet. It's crazy.
Well, we had no idea what we were doing. we just put a blindfold on and we're like, all right, we got to create a lot of value here somehow.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, we got to do a lot of connecting. We got to do a lot of this. Anytime somebody comes in, let's gather resources, put it in our war room. I don't know if you remember the war room,
Yeah.
but, and eventually like a lot of the people that are now running really successful communities, like a lot of them kind of started back there. Like they were
Yep.
just getting going. So the network's really grown a lot.
Which is sick.
Yeah.
What was the biggest in-person event that you guys ended up doing?
It was the one in Tampa for sure.
How many
It's like-
people was that?
I was like 350.
It's insane.
Yeah.
We put on a lot of events, and it's insane.
We
It's
had
the cost
we had
stacks so
no
quickly.
idea what we were doing. We had never done an event before. We decided to go 3 days all out. Like it was nuts. There was no reason that event should have been that well like ran.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it was.
Like, where do you draw inspiration from? Was it the Grant Cardone event that you guys had just met at?
I think we were just doing what we wanted.
Yeah,
Like
just for fun.
Justin really liked, like he was really good at like connecting like people and like the vision to stuff, and then I was just doing a lot of sales and then all the marketing kind of
Yeah.
behind it. And dude, we were just like, all right, how do we just do really cool stuff? Like, okay, party buses, like yeah, let's do that. And then we were like, okay,
Water.
yeah, water, like let's
Bottle
take people
service.
there. And then it was, I mean, it just kept going. And then one of our friends connected us with like a ton of the vendors. So like we had artists, and then we had it was just, dude, it just rolled.
Had everything.
Yeah, it
You just didn't. It just sounds like you were like spare no expense. Like we're just gonna go for experience.
We had no idea what we were doing, right?
Yeah.
So like it wasn't like we knew if we were doing something good or bad. It was just like, let's just keep doing, you know?
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
had no idea. Like it was just like go until the event, and then the event happened and we're like, holy crap. And then we hit the down and it worked, you know?
Yeah, what was like the biggest learning after that event? Because it sounds like after the first one, you're like, we got to downsize this.
Honestly, if we were more experienced back then and we had just more business acumen, like we knew how to like scale and like put stuff together and kind of grow, it probably would have been a very successful business.
Yeah.
I think we were just young people doing business, you know, but we had a huge network and we had a lot of eyeballs, and people just wanted to be a part of it. So it was very hard for us to keep it on the rails, really. So I'd say the biggest learning thing from that event, one is like community is super powerful no matter what. Whether you're doing a done-for-you service, like we're talking about that now within Sales Momentum, is like how do we drive the community aspect to what we
Yeah.
do? Because revenue operations and systems and that whole side of things isn't like very sexy until you actually understand it and learn it, and then it becomes very sexy.
Yep.
But there's not a lot of like community around it, right? Or at least there isn't from what we've found. So community is super powerful. One, I think being young and like naive to everything is probably just like you should run with that as long as you can.
It's a good mindset, like good thing to
100%.
approach it with.
Yeah. Honestly, like that was my first real go around with like a real actual successful business. And not from like a financial, but just from like we were doing shit that hadn't been done at a very young age within kind of what our space.
And it was
right?
valuable. Like you're helping like a market that was in need.
It was sick. It
Yeah.
was sick. So, I mean, that was just a massive catalyst for everything that we're doing now. And a lot of our relationships today that helped Sales Momentum get started, even Jordan, right?
We're from socialX.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think about like the guys that were running socialX. Like you guys all went on to do like really big things. Like you guys had a killer team of A players running the show.
Yeah.
And so kind of talk about what you did after, right? Because I know from there you guys had, I think within the community, like Kennected was kind of like a partner that got introduced to a lot of the members with a discount and whatever. And so is that where you bridged the connection to them to go and run their sales team?
Yeah, so after socialX, I was here in Miami, and I met up with Elliot and a few others at his dad's house or whatever here in Miami, and we got to talking, and I was like, what do you guys like? who sells for you? And they're like, we all do. And there was 5 founders, right? So they're just all selling. And they had tried to do a sales team like once or twice. They had like this like, it was like old heads, like all gray hair, 55, 60 years old, who were like their affiliates, who like Devin would get on with every week. And like, that was kind of their sales team. So I was like, yeah, let me sell for you guys. And they're like, all right, sure. It's like, cool, sounds good. So I started taking the sales calls. About a week into it, I was like, this is too easy.
Too easy.
Yeah, like this is like, let's just throw a bunch of people behind this and kind of see how it goes. So it's like, hey guys, I'm not interested in selling, but I'll build a sales team. And they're like, all right, go for it. Like, sure.
Like, yeah, have at it.
Yeah, why not?
This guy's awesome.
Take
He's
a
going to do all the
swing.
work for us.
Like,
Yeah.
well, who cares? Go for it. And at this point, they were probably doing like 20, 25K a month. It was still Chrome extension, like very underdeveloped, like just simple. So I hired a bunch of my friends from high school and college, and there was about 15, and I just taught them how to basically line up the gun, reload it, and shoot down range and just fill my calendar. So I was taking probably 10, 15 sales calls a day for probably about the first 30 days. And we scaled the hell out of it. Like we went from doing, maybe a new client every other day to like 4 or 5 clients a day.
Jeez.
In like a week or two.
You were hiring just anyone you knew? Like,
Yeah.
did they have to have any experience?
No.
No? So it was that easy to
I
sell on the phone, or are you just the best sales trainer?
I mean, I literally went to my friends who were like serving tables, working at car washes, valet,
Yeah, like
whatever.
talking to people.
Also,
Yeah.
just
And
think
I-
of how good of a product it was back then. Like,
It was huge.
early
I was
days,
I was like, guys,
LinkedIn automation was a cheat code. Like, you just immediately can fill your
well,
calendar.
And that was the crazy thing. So I was like, guys, like, look, all you have to do is click this, fill this here, do this thing here, respond to people and book them to my calendar, and I'll make you a few grand a month.
Yeah.
And people were like,
Okay.
okay, yeah, sure. So anyways, like 3-4 weeks in, we've got 15 people behind me just filling my calendar. And it just started to blow up. And, if you fast forward, like probably about 5.5, 6 months, we had outgrown 2 offices. Everybody from Florida is moving to Indiana. It was now this like monster of a thing. They got a massive office in downtown Indy. And for me, I had never built a sales team. I had never done recruiting. I had never done sales training. I had never done anything like that. But that was kind of when I found like, oh shit, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
Like this is what I'm really good at. And I just liked the idea of like being able to go to my friend from high school who's like not doing anything and be like, hey, just come here, click these buttons, do this, and like you're gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it worked. And it worked over
And they
over
probably
over again.
loved you too.
Yeah, it was cool, and that's where a lot of my relationships are from today too. Is like, think about the socialX moving into Kennected. Like I was just able to give a lot of value to a lot of people.
Yep.
So a lot of those people who, because they were coming in from doing nothing in college. Like think about like after college, like no clue what they're doing, serving tables, like in debt, whatever, and then they're making 10, 15,000 a month in like a month or 2 months, and then they're buying their favorite car and they're getting a nice apartment, and they're, you know what I mean? It was just this wave of like everyone we knew wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, for me, like a cool personal experience has been working with our guy Pete, who me and Andre grew up with. But same exact situation. Like he was post college, didn't really like his job, and I hopped on a Zoom call with him at night, and I was like, "Do you have any understanding as to like what our business does?" He was like, "Nope." He's like, "Do you know what an agency is?" He's like, "Nope." I was like, "All right, we're gonna just talk for a couple of days here. I'm just gonna fill you in on what everything is." Now flash forward, he's fucking crushing it.
Yeah.
But it's such a good feeling to
There's
put
no
people
better
on like
feeling.
that. Yeah.
No better feeling.
So what ever happened to Kennected? Because you guys were growing super fast. It was like the hottest software on the block, and then I feel like I haven't heard about it.
I couldn't tell you. I think, naturally anything that does that well, everyone else starts to do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there was a lot of competition. I left pretty early. So for me, what ended up happening with me is like I wasn't a founder, right? But I wanted to be treated like a founder. And that ultimately drove a wedge in between me and the other founders, But I had built this massive team behind me, and I had all of their trust, right? And I had the leadership behind all of these people. And, naturally you build a zero to a, couple $100,000 a month, $500K a month software company with a big office, big sales team, a whole bunch of other stuff, and a lot of noise. Like, a lot of people are now contacting me, asking me to do the same thing, right? So I knew I needed to be a business owner, and it was just, I needed that opportunity to go wrong for me to get out of my own head and just go do my own thing. So anyways, me and all the founders are really cool now, but we had a fallout. And a lot of the people after I left. And that's just natural, right? I recruited a lot of them. So anyways, I think competition came into the market pretty hard. They still are developing some pretty cool tools, but I think they're shifting their focus to like next innovative software, right? And that's all I really know.
I mean, LinkedIn as a platform has made it pretty difficult for those guys too.
Well, yeah, LinkedIn's cracking down on it.
Yeah.
I don't even touch LinkedIn anymore.
Me neither.
No.
You know what I mean? I can't.
You can send like 25 DMs a day, maybe.
It's like 400 people are like, hey, let's connect.
Dude.
Like, fuck you. Leave me alone.
Every time I accidentally log into LinkedIn, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to see that. It's just a hellscape of.
I mean, it's still got its perks, right? But
Of course,
it's just not.
My life is much better without it, though.
Back in the day, though, like you throw on some automation and like
It was a cheat code.
Boom, it was nuts.
It's literal cheat code.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so much fun.
But yeah, and then, I mean, naturally, like a lot of people were contacting me asking if I could do something similar. And I had kind of built my framework around scaling teams, right? It was a competitive structure. It was starting with one pod, getting the pod up to KPI, taking that pod, splitting it into two, developing people into sales leads, not sales managers, right? So never putting people into management, but always making them the next really shiny object that's making a ton of money and helping people come in, start recruiting, bringing better training systems, like all of this stuff. So I built this kind of framework that I started bringing to all these different other companies, and think like sales team rescue, like bar rescue, like that's literally what I was doing. And fast forward beyond that, those companies started coming back to us, and this is about the time when me and Jordan kind of started Sales Momentum. Was they were just falling back, and they were like, hey, like we scaled through high hell, but like now we're falling apart. Right? And the way, like now what I look at a business or a department as is like there's mass and then there's velocity, right? And mass is going to be your people, your recruiting, your training, like your leadership development, like all of the stuff that matters to drive like the mass of the business, the people, right? The process. And then you have velocity, right? Velocity is going to be the systems, the accountability, the metrics, like being able to read data, automation, like actual systems behind what you have in your mass, right? So you can build a great company with mass, but eventually it's going to get way overweight and your whole company is going to be basically obese, and people are going to start getting pissed off, upset. You're going to start growing cancer. Stuff is going to start falling apart. You're going to have people leave with a lot of people. Like that's what happens when you build a lot of mass with no velocity, right? And then there's companies that have none of this, but they're just great tech people, right? You have to have both. So what we started realizing is we were building great mass, but we were building no systems, right? And that's what all these companies needed. So we got, again, to put another blindfold on and just start throwing stuff against the wall. We were building with Salesforce, Close, Go High Level, Pipe Drive, literally any system that you can think of, we were building on. And we had a few builds on HubSpot that just blew everything else out of the water. Why? Because we were like, all right, no zaps, not a lot of integrations. If we want to change something, like it's in one login, the implementation's a lot faster. The development and like of going through phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 of like systems was way simpler. You had way less people managing it, so it was cheaper, and it's all in one spot. So we found that HubSpot worked a lot better than everything else that we were doing, and then that's what led into the second iteration of Sales Momentum and everything that we're doing today. Right. And that's really what opened up a lot of the big relationships that we have now, because now we can go into companies. We're not we didn't start as systems people. So like we understand what the sales teams want, how they, operate from like a setter level to a closer level to a sales lead to a manager to like we understand all of these layers. And then my brother, while I was doing all of this on the sales side, he was doing everything on the fulfillment side. So the guy that you guys met who's walking around here, he would go in on the CS side. I was going in on the sales front. So now we get to go into companies and we understand all the way from when a lead enters the system, right? All the way from the bottom level, what it looks like, smells like, tastes like, how it should operate, what people want to look at in the morning, how do they run their meetings. Like we understand all of these dynamics that nobody else in our space does. So we can build systems that are just 10 times more growth and just effective for the people that are actually using it, as opposed to most of the companies in this space, they're just fix-it people.
Yeah.
This is broken, it's fixed. But they're not building it with growth in mind, right? So that's kind of how we've been able to really take this space, I guess, for what it is by storm, and why a lot of the bigger names and the bigger people are coming to us now, because there's a ton of system companies out there. There's a ton of IT people. There's a ton of like great architects that can fix things, but there's not a lot of people that have the background of building sales teams or building CS teams or working really well with marketing that also are very good at systems.
Yeah.
That's not very common.
Yeah, most of the HubSpot consultants are looking at it from like a developer mindset. And the sales manager comes to them and says, hey, we're doing this every day. Is there any way we can automate it? And they're like, yes. But you come in with a strategy after doing all these like bar rescue style turnarounds and say, like, well, you shouldn't be doing that at all. Like, here's a proven system. Correct. This is why it needs to be this way.
Or it's basically the latter of what you just said. Instead of them saying, hey, we're doing this every morning, can we automate this? We're going to tell them about that in the beginning of the build.
Yeah.
Hey, look, this is something you're going to need when you get past 10 people, right? You're going to be splitting people into teams. You're going to be doing this. So like, this is how we're actually going to build the structure so you guys can build into this instead of just giving you what you want today. Right. We're going to build you more of a sustainable and structured system that can actually grow. Right.
Yeah. Like there's a consultant aspect to it as well, because you've actually,
that's all it is.
That's all it is, right? Yeah. Like you actually have the experience building a sales team and leading a sales team using those systems, rather than I just know how to build it in HubSpot. Good luck on how you use it.
Yeah, have fun. yeah, no.
And it's not fun.
No, and I mean, that's what makes it fun for us. Like that's why we love it, because we get to go in and they're like, well, we want this, and we're like, that's a really bad idea, and they're like, why? And we get to show them, and they're like, holy shit, like that would have taken us a year to figure out. And it's like, great. Well, now that you don't have to figure that out, everything's sound. You have a really solid foundation. Like now, give us your ideas. Now, tell us what could make this 10 times better, right? But most people try and go to building, especially with systems.
Yep.
Especially with systems, like people try and get all of the bells and whistles before they have anything concrete at the bottom. And that's what we talk to a lot of our clients about. It's like they come in, they hire us. We're like, all right, we're going to build you the foundation. They're like, but we want this crazy in-depth blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you have 5 reps. You're doing a few $100,000 a month. You have no system foundation at all. You have nobody on your team that knows how to operate or manage this, but you want to do this crazy in-depth automation that's on top of something that's not even there yet.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense, right? But once you have a foundation and the teams actually understand more about it, those ideas are possible. And they're possible and sustainable at the same time, right?
What's a good example of a client you had that was like crushing it, but when you saw their back end sales systems, you're like, holy shit, you're missing out on like so much revenue.
Can we bleep this?
Don't like say a name, but just an example, because I think it's funny how, I mean, even with us with ListKit, I feel like there's so much sitting on the table because our HubSpot systems aren't built out yet.
You have no idea. There's, I'm going to say it, but we're going to have to bleep it.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, we'll bleep it.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
It was insanity. Like absolute insanity. We got there. So first of all, they just don't bring in consultants. They just don't.
They do everything in-house.
Yeah, all of it. And that's the way they 100% should do it, right? But anyways, I can't tell too much about it because like, we'll know. But it was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, what happens a lot is when people are building systems, right? Like, so CEO, founder, they're like, guys, we got to get a better CRM, whatever. We're on Monday, we're on a close. Like, this is becoming a mess. We're on GHL. This sucks. Like, we got to switch into something. And they'll go over to like a HubSpot or Salesforce or whatever. And then guess who builds it? The CMO or the sales director.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of knee-jerking and building as they go, which means that no one else on the team has any clue of how things are working. So if the sales director is building it, marketing is like no clue what's going on. If marketing's building it, the sales team is just like doing a bunch of stuff manually. There's no real, like, it's just a mess. But it's funny how most of our clients, before they think about hiring somebody, like, okay, if I was in my client's shoes knowing what I know, I'd be like, all right, I can put my sales director and my CMO and I can hire like a manager for systems, which is going to cost a lot of money, and the overall like loss of revenue because they're focused on trying to build a system rather than produce and develop the team and whatever. Like, I can just go hire somebody for this, right? But what a lot of these companies do is they get a year, 2 years, 3 years into it, having their team try and focus and build on this, and it becomes the entire focus of the entire company every single day, and they're just putting out fires. They're not building. They get to a certain point, and everything is just constant, like dominoes falling, and they're just setting them back up. And so the whole entire team is now completely focused on, does the system work? Is it going to work next week? We have a new campaign coming out. Like, how do we get this going? So your entire team that was set up to actually develop your sales team, work on new campaigns or innovative campaigns for marketing, work with your clients, do fulfillment. All they're thinking about is systems now.
Yeah.
Right. So most of these companies operate that way for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then when they come to us and we look across kind of their throughput of their system as a whole, right, there's massive inefficiencies in very like simple fixes that they could be doing, but nobody's looking at the system of like, how do we grow it? They're just trying to keep it alive.
Makes sense.
Right.
What are some of those metrics you look at that are like, okay,
So,
there's something missing here?
coaching consulting, let's just use that industry. One of the most common areas that we see where the biggest opportunity lies is going to be on the backside in their fulfillment process, right? So we look for what we call hot zones, right? It's when clients are very happy or very pissed off, right? There's always like common pockets across the fulfillment. And if you're not tracking any kind of like client success score, or you're not having any kind of accountability with your coaches, right? For you can call it a happiness score,
Like an NPS.
NPS, whatever it is, right? And you don't have any kind of client journey tracking. Most clients are just getting onboarded and then like they're kind of tracking where they're at, right? What we're trying to do is we're creating onboarding, but then a client journey, and then we're taking the renewal, the cross-sell, the upsell as an offboarding, and it's all systemized. So nobody goes through the program without getting tracked from start to finish. So when their scores are very high month one, we know that's a perfect time to start introducing a testimonial collection for the client. Month two comes, right? If their score is still as high as it was in month one, now we're going for referrals, right? Month three happens, it's still very, very high. Now we're going for the upsell, cross-sell, renewal process, right? If those scores drop, well, we have an automated system and it's tracking that. So now instead of going for a testimonial, we're going for triage. We're trying to figure out how to make them better. So in month two, we can collect referrals, right? So we look for all these hot pockets. And what people don't understand is like, especially with what most of the like demand gen is for these companies, it's all paid unless they have a very big organic presence somewhere, right? So let's say their client acquisition, they're selling a $10,000, $12,000 product. Their acquisition cost is like $2,000 to $3,000, right? Maybe a little bit higher. So they acquire a product or a client for $4,000. That means they've got $8,000 in net revenue, and then you take commissions and all of the other stuff that comes with it for a 90-day program. Imagine if that person you knew 50% of the time was going to renew or go into your upsell. And on top of that, the journey, you were getting collateral for marketing, so testimonial. you're getting 2 to 3 referrals out of 60 to 70% of everybody that goes through month 2. And on your renewal cross sell, you're at a 50% conversion. Just knowing that.
You're going to spend like with full confidence.
You can just
every last
you
dollar.
can outspend everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody's looking to fix their ROAS and their returns and all of these different things and all of these metrics on the front end of the process in sales.
Yep.
And that's easiest to focus on. But most people just completely forget about the back end, right? Not realizing that that is like, you're going to live and die on the back end of your process, right? So, and that's where a lot of these freaking gurus get their teeth kicked in, right? Because they're just selling like crazy. They're great marketers. They're great at selling, but their fulfillment is just garbage. Yeah. Right. So we see that a lot. And then, no-show is like a plague right now in pretty much every industry, which we've got some really cool stuff, which we can talk about at some point. And a lot of it's like, if you think about, like, let's say a company's bringing in 1,000 leads, lead to booking percentage is 10%, right? So they're getting 100 people a month booked on the initial entry, right? And let's say their show rate is 50%. So 50 people show up and their close rate is, let's just use round numbers, 50%. So 25 people close, right? At the end of the month. Let's say we change that lead to booking to 20%, right? Small tweaks, 10% lift on that is very easy actually, right? Especially if you have a good sound system, right? And a
like
sales
they
team.
opt in, they call right away if they didn't book a call, or there's an email flow.
Yeah, so January, you focus on speed to lead. Okay, guys, we're going speed to lead, like you have 15 minutes, or your lead is going to be distributed to somebody else. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I don't know, I'm just making up a scenario. But you're going to focus on that all of January. So you go from a 10% to 20%. So now you're booking 200 people instead of 100. And let's say nothing else on that back end changes. Well, now you're closing 50, so you just doubled.
Damn.
You just doubled.
Just because that one number.
Just because you just focused on the one thing. Where people screw up all the time is they look at everything and they give their marketers initiative. They give their salespeople initiative. They give their fulfillment people initiative. And then they try and think on themselves, like, we got to redo this pre-call. We got to redo this. We got to change that. We got to change the funnel. We got to do. No, you don't. Just focus on one number a month and you can literally double revenue, double ROAS, triple revenue, all by just focusing on little incremental gains on these numbers, right? And that's where people burn out and lose, is because they're looking at this entire equation when really, all right, guys, let's take the lead to booking from 10 to 20. Let's take the show rate from 50 to 55. Let's take our, rebook off the no-show from 10% to 25%. All of these numbers massively increase. And if you talk about the scenario that we just did, just by increasing that lead to booking from 100 to 200, right? People coming in, if there's 1,000 leads, they're going from 10% to 20%. 25 clients in 1 month is great, but imagine if you sustain just that number over an entire year. You just doubled your entire business off one metric in the process, right? And it's not this elementary and this simple, but like when you get a very sound system and you have really good people, so you have really good mass that are really down to build whatever vision is going on, right? Let's take ListKit. You have a great vision. Everybody's bought in. Everybody knows what you're doing. You've got sound principles. Everybody wants to grow. And you've got a really sound system and you're making decisions based on what metric are we going to grow this month or next month or this quarter. Now you can really just start churning, right? And it pulls whoever's on the leadership side out a little bit so you guys can be more visionary and less like, we have to get all of these things right this month. So I love this stuff.
Simple.
It's awesome.
We can tell.
It's awesome,
bro.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like super tactical for us too, because we're obviously in the business, coaching and consulting, and with ListKit.
Yeah.
Let's actually dive in real quick, go a little more technical for a minute. What if one of those numbers for people listening is show rate, right? That's the one thing they want to focus on and lift this month with all the changes happening. What are some things that you've seen help in that area? Yeah.
So the simplest thing, I'm going to go real tactical.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Our audience.
Simplest thing you can try is, so for whoever's watching this, like, I'm going to guarantee probably about 95% of them are going to answer like yes to this. Is your pre-call set up so no matter who books goes through the exact same thing?
Yes.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how qualified they are, how underqualified they are, how much they engage back with emails, how much they watch of your post-call video. They get the same pre-call no matter what.
For list kit, yes. Yes.
Okay. So most people, that's exactly how it's going to be. So think about this. Like, you have I don't know, you guys are selling B2B. Let's just say that, right? You're selling B2B. Somebody, I book a call. I'm very busy, but I watch the post call because I want to know what's going on. I'm opening the emails. I'm not going to respond, right? But you guys are sending me email, text. I'm getting calls. I'm just getting blown up.
Yeah, it's like
right?
1 hour left, 30 minutes left. See you in 5.
I may just be
"All right,
like, screw this. Like,
Yeah.
you guys
You just get pissed off.
yeah,
Yeah.
you this is way too much. Like, I'm good. See ya. Right. So I don't show up. But on the other side, let's say somebody isn't going to show up and they're getting bombarded. It may help them show up. Right. So the easiest thing that we've found to get to a more sustainable show rate that isn't like keeping you up at night is to make your pre-call conditional. So there's a tool called Vitalytics. Are you guys familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Vitalytics, you can basically create play gates, which will tell you, this person watched 25%, 50%, 75%, 100% of your post call. So if I was going to tell you a very simple way to get your show rate up is first, drop your post call video into Vitalytics, right? Make your pre-call more focused on getting them to watch this, right? And depending on how much of the video that they're watching, pull back your correspondence.
Makes sense.
So if they watch 25% and they're not opening emails, you should be blowing them up. If they watch 75% of your video or 100% of the video and they're opening 1 or 2 emails,
Leave them alone.
yeah, you have a very high likelihood of them showing up, right? And this is completely dependent on your industry, right? If like you work with like realtors or like contractors, like they're on the go all the time. So like this, you could probably be very, very aggressive with them throughout the whole thing. But essentially what I'm saying is create 2 paths. One path where they're not watching the post call video, right? They're not necessarily opening emails, right? And maybe the threshold to go to the other correspondence is they've opened 3 emails or they've responded, right? Or they watch 50% of your post call video. Okay, so that'll take them to the less aggressive side of the correspondence, right? Your second one is going to be they watch 50%, they're opening emails, right? Or they respond. 2 different types of correspondence that you can make very personal because you know what assets they're engaging with, right? And you can start to set up what we call traps, but they're not traps. It's like they open the email, but they don't watch this, text them from the rep, right? So people kind of just set up pre-call, one size fits all, and they just let it run. And they're like, why don't people show up? It's like, well, how about we think about like the actual journey you're trying to take them through real quick. And then let's make sure that if they confirm or if they are active or if they're like really engaging with what we're trying to get them to do, but they still haven't responded, we're not just destroying them with stuff, right? So very simple, 2 paths. Use Vitalytics to play gate 25, 50, 75, 100%, right? Create 2 paths, make the bridge across from the super aggressive to not very aggressive. X amount of emails, so let's say 3 emails or 2 emails, right? And 50% watched. Very simple. If they do these things, they move over to less aggressive. If they don't do these things, we're making sure that they know that their call is coming up, right? So creating a more conditional approach to like how do we want to meet people where they're at, right? In the pre-call process is going to be a lot better. And transparently, like the prospects will notice too.
Yeah. That like you're kind of listening to
100%.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then the next question that I'm sure our audience is wondering is, what do you typically say in the post-call video? Do you have sort of like a template you like to follow for those?
I think it just depends. Like SaaS is pretty easy. Run a demo, case studies, like why this works, why you guys are different. Like, I think the biggest thing in the post call is like talk to your sales team. What do people show up? What are the biggest questions? Like run through some of your transcriptions. If you guys are on HubSpot, use keywords or like search for, questions. If you're using something like Fathom, you can go find all the questions in every sales call. But you want to address, like, there's a couple reasons for post call. One, you don't want to answer their questions. You want to get them more interested. So a lot of people will take the post call and just, this is what we do. This is who we are. This is what you get. This is how it works. And then the person's like, all right, I don't want that. They just make their decision off of a post call, right? When in reality, if they spoke to the rep and the rep was able to do what they were doing, it would have been a great fit, right? So you don't want to give people enough information to where they can make a decision. You kind of want to draw them in more with more of like the high level, but you also want to be able to handle some of the questions that they're going to have so that the sales rep can be very tight on a timeline in terms of the sales process, right? So for us specifically, we have a very long sales cycle. We have to learn what they're doing. We got to understand what systems they're on. Are we migrating? Are we not? Like, we have a massive amount of trust that we have to build in a short time to actually get our sale, right? To gain a client. So for us, like, what we're developing now is more on a high level. How do we answer their questions before they get in? So when it comes to the sale, like the reps, Riley, and the reps that are underneath Riley, they don't have to go 3 weeks answering questions, right? Because for us, if our sales cycle goes past like 3 or 4 calls, it's all technical mumbo jumbo. Like, well, what about this tiny thing, this tiny thing, this tiny thing? And the more that happens, the likelihood of the sale goes down, right? Because they're just fixated on all these random tiny little aspects that could go wrong or whatever. And it is basically like a nail in the coffin. Like, that sale is either going to take 2 months or it's just like not worth it anymore because they're hyper fixated on all this stuff. So our pre-call is now going to be much more high level, but also focused on kind of what questions they're going to ask around the technical side, so we can get them past that so that the salesperson can handle everything they need in like 2 or 3 calls rather than 10, right? It just depends. Yeah. But I would just say, look at your sales calls, look at the questions people are asking, and try and answer their questions while intriguing them more, right? So if it's just you speaking, handle everything, but don't show what it actually looks like, right?
Yeah, you need to give them a reason to still come to the call.
Absolutely.
Or else they won't.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about was the team that you're currently working with. Like, your brother, your twin actually, came in here earlier, and we were chatting with him, but tell us a little bit about like what the team is now currently, because we're here. You got a sick place in Miami. You got a bunch of desks set up everywhere, and it looks like a little compound. Like, everybody's just kind of grinding in here. I would love to understand.
Sauna, cold plunge, all.
Yeah, what's the dynamic looking like there?
One thing, sales momentum. I'll start by saying this: sales momentum. You can make good money doing like very high ticket, done for you service stuff, but it's very difficult to scale. But what it does allow us to do is it attracts really smart people that want to get their hands on really cool projects, right? And then if you get those people that want to come in and you're able to provide them with massive projects and big names and different things like that, you're basically giving a lot of really talented people a ton of development time, right? So sales momentum for us is kind of the long-term play is private equity. Right now it's talent acquisition. Like, how do we make the company so attractive to really smart people and specialized people to work with a lot of really great companies to get all of that experience, to attract more really smart people, and just so on and so forth, so we can get into kind of the next level of it. Because this company isn't right now there's not a lot of financial gain. Yeah. Right? It's very long time frames, lots of fulfillment, right? Lots of custom stuff. Like, we're working on it, but it's more of like, we want to just build a badass team. So right now we have a fulfillment department, we have a PMP, so a project management department, we have our marketing department, we have sales, and then kind of leadership stuff. And right now, full time, there's about 15 of us. Some are up in Tampa, some are in Orlando, some are in Indiana, some are in Minnesota, and a lot of them are down here in South Florida. And one of the things that we realized with our business is like just the proximity of somebody being able to walk out, knock on my office door, and sit down at the table and like hash out a problem real quick and then go back to what we're doing. Just that alone solves so many inefficiencies across business. Yeah. So if we want to scale, we need to get people closer together, right? And for us, like, we're just not go get a business office somewhere and like drive an hour, and it just wasn't us. Like,
you don't want to commute to work.
I don't want to do that. Yeah, nobody else wanted to. So we're like, let's get a house. Let's get a house. Let's just pack it with everything we want and what we could need, and let's just make it super attractive where people want to be here. Let's make it flexible. We can hang out here. We can work here. We could sleep here. Like, it doesn't matter, right? And that was the kind of idea behind this. And so far, it's been awesome. It's been really cool. And just to have you guys here, like,
you do stuff like
like,
this
stop
easy.
by. Yeah.
Yeah,
Super
it's
cool.
so far. Yeah, you cash in on a lot of opportunities just having a place like this.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to get into is like how for you, like running in-person events has kind of evolved, right? Going from what you did at socialX to now what you're doing like with your own business with sales momentum, whether it's like client specific events, like you were saying, and just kind of other events that you're getting into.
So,
I mean, the one from your Instagram story was so fire from last year. Like that was like at a mansion or something in Miami.
That was cool.
Like,
that was really cool.
The experience looked insane. You guys had like a hibachi chef or something like outside. Like, like what?
It was cool. Are you familiar with Icon? Clever events.
So.
This dude with long hair. He's a complete psychopath when it comes to events, but he's like, that's all he does. He just loves the client experience events side, right? So we partnered with him for our first ever like sales momentum event. And I think for us, it was like, I don't even know how we came to the idea of having an event. I think it was Icon. We connected with Icon. And he's like, all right.
Is that his name?
Yeah. His name's
Icon?
Icon. Yeah. So, what up, Gavin?
We got one of the killers right here.
Yeah, so what's going on?
Love the shirt.
We're rolling.
It's a sick shirt.
Thank you. You guys crush it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to.
We are live.
We are live.
Yeah.
We're all good. That was a good cameo.
Yeah. So, the first event was so with us, we wanted to challenge ourselves. Like, how do we teach everything we do in 3 days? That was the idea with the event, right? It was like, all right, all of our clients, they have what we've built, but they don't really necessarily know how to like they don't know much about this
like
stuff.
why it works or how it works.
How it works, why it works, like the philosophies behind it, like, okay, we're going to grow. A lot of them wanted to know sales team stuff, which we just like, a lot of the people, imagine going from sales team building to like systems, and everyone knows you as like the sales team builder. So like a lot of people come to me and I'm like, I just don't do that anymore. Like, here's everything I used to do. Like, you can have it.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the hell? I'm like, I just don't do that anymore. I do this, right? So it was kind of like, how do we give them everything we do and teach the people that need to understand it everything in 3 days? And that was our challenge with it. So a lot of the people at the event were our clients' sales directors or our clients' CMOs or our clients' operations managers or whatever. And it was sick because everyone stayed on property. So it was like a 20,000 square foot. It was huge.
Jeez.
Like, I can't remember how many bedrooms, but it was monster house.
It's like an Airbnb or
I don't know. Clever got it for us. But basketball court inside, monster pool area.
yeah, you guys got you had a basketball tournament or something.
Yeah, we had a basketball. I mean, it was just like, again, like,
Insane.
how do we make this awesome?
Yeah.
And for us, it was like, we had never met any of our clients in person. They had never met us. So it was always we talked to them every day. It's over Zoom.
Yeah.
But for us, it was just like, all right, let's get people together. Let's start some kind of community aspect around this. And then let's try and see how much information we can get everybody to digest in 3 days, because there's so much that we have to go over. And there's actually some funny stories around it. So I was building the presentation until the start of the second day. So the first night was just everyone getting there. We had kind of like everyone's mixing it up, cocktails, food, whatever. Second day was the first day of like the presentation. That night, I got food poisoning.
Oh, jeez.
So I was sick from like probably 11 or 12 o'clock until about 5 a.m. the next day.
Oh my god.
And I had to go on and speak at 8 for basically a 10-hour session.
And you did it?
So I wake up.
Toughed it out?
My assistant at the time called the fire department. The fire department came. They were sticking me everywhere with anything they could. They had 2 IV bags in me. I've got a picture I'll show you guys later. It's hilarious. But basically, think of like a computer like loading. Like they were just sticking me with stuff.
The fire department?
Yeah. Literally like a medic came. And I was
Emergency.
done. I was like
This is the Jordan flu game.
it
You
was
get
probably,
through it though?
It was like the worst food poisoning I think I've ever had in my life. It was terrible.
Dude,
From the
food
hibachi
poisoning
chef?
in general.
No, from we weren't supposed to go out to dinner, but everyone wanted to go out to dinner, so we went to like where they carve the meat off, like
Yeah.
not
Brazilian
Texas Steak
steakhouse.
House,
Fogo de Chao or
yeah,
something.
something like that. Everyone else was fine, but I was
got the
wrecked.
wrong slice.
I was bad. It was terrible. So, anyways, they're sticking me. It's like 10 minutes until I have to go on. And I just remember like sitting up and literally just like booting up. And I was like, okay,
Ready
let's
to go.
freaking go. I had nothing in me except for IVs, fluids, vitamins. Like they were giving me stuff called nods. I don't know what nods are, but so I'm superhuman for like 10 hours and I get to go through the whole day,
my
like
God.
no food, just imagine being detoxed completely, but nothing but fluids and vitamins and just like
Just felt amazing.
anything. Yeah. So I got through that day. We weren't going to do an offer, but Icon was like, hey, no, you're doing an offer. So we made an offer it was just a fun event.
Yeah.
It's a fun event. The content was, I think, too intense. So what we learned from it was like, less is going to be more for our next event. Like people were just like melted.
Yeah, how do you balance fun and information at an event? Because with us, it's like we sit in a room for 8 hours. You can kind of tell the energy's low. Everyone's like tapped out.
Yeah.
And then you mix in like a basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Just keep the energy up.
Yeah. I think, attention span, right? Like if this podcast was 4 hours long, like no way.
Yeah, no way.
You know what I mean? But if it's an hour and a half and like something funny like Gavin walking in
Yeah.
just randomly, like, okay, people are like, okay, now I'm a little reset. So
Yeah.
like, I'm not an expert in events. Clever and those guys are just absolute geniuses with it. Like they are so good. It's insane. I think the one thing that they told us was like, no matter how big the event is, people won't remember much about the event, but they're going to remember the food that you served them.
The food. Okay.
And
Food
I
is
was like,
super
I was
important.
like, no way. And we looked at our surveys and everyone was like, the food was insane. And we're like, damn, dude. Like, all right.
Double
so,
down on the food.
I mean, for us, dude, it was like, all right, let's have fun with it. Let's try and deliver as much good information as we can. And let's just hire Clever and them and they'll create us a really badass event. So when working with Clever, it was more just like, what's the craziest thing you can think of? And I was like, I don't know. Like, you should hear the ideas we have now. Like, my idea for next year is to do a car rally down California with like 30 business owners. So literally go from resort to resort rallying.
Bro,
so rent a
what?
bunch of cars, like Ferraris, whatever, and get like our really high-end clients, do a speech, like do some content,
At each, like,
whatever,
resort
and then drive down,
to the
and
next
then
one.
do one, and then drive down.
It's fire.
So,
Talk about how to mix it up and have
Yeah.
breaks in between.
well, it's just different, right? Like Clever and them, they rented a battleship, like a military ship, and did
You can rent those?
yes, dude.
That's fucking sick.
So like when they're telling us ideas, we're just coming up with stuff, and like it just worked. So I'm no means an expert with events, but I do have a really good sense of people. And then yeah, it was just a fun event, man.
Bro, what were they doing on a battleship?
I don't know. I don't know, man. You should see the videos. They're like in helicopters shooting stuff. Like,
Midway through a speech, there's just like a hostage situation.
no, it was sick though.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, I mean, you bring in people like that, just have crazy execution around big vision, so you can just do what you like to do. And
Yeah.
for me, it was like putting the presentation together. I've never done like a course community for myself other than kind of SocialX, right? So that's kind of like the practice for me. It was like, all right, I just got to practice presentations, practice building content, like what we do is so hard to teach people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we probably would have some kind of like
coaching
done with you, do it with us type of thing. And we tried it and it was just so freaking difficult, dude. It's so hard to get people to comprehend not just a platform, but also like the philosophy and like the understanding of how everything ties together across marketing, sales, fulfillment, and so on and so forth. Right. So,
and naturally, like this is one of the things that makes sense to bring in outside help for. Because for me right now, I'm stuck trying to build systems all day in HubSpot and I fucking hate it.
Well, like it's what we were talking about in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, guys, we're going to a new system. And everyone's like, sick. And then 6 months into it, everyone's just sweating, putting out fires.
Yeah. Where if I could just hop on a team meeting every day and just go over and review a call and be like, hey, you're saying this way too often, don't do this. Or I can just be more so like a coach as opposed to part-time systems developer. It's just more effective for everyone.
100%. Well, imagine 6 months of you developing a system compared to you developing 10 people on your sales team.
Exactly. Yep. It's a huge...
The opportunity cost is massively different.
Yeah.
Right? So...
And oftentimes you spend 6 months building a system just to realize the system is a piece of shit.
That's so true.
I gotta tear this all down.
Well, dude, some people like they just get it. They really develop it, but they'll get it in their domain. And then it's like, all right, you're the systems guy. And you're like, wait a minute. I thought I was the sales director. Now marketing's asking me to do stuff. Fulfillment's asking me to do stuff. Right. And like, that's never fun. You know what I mean? Like, guys, I'm here to build a sales department and now I'm building
tech
marketing systems and fulfillment systems. And it's like, what the hell's going on? Right. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think this year in terms of events, like we're sponsoring SLS with Patrick, which is going to be really cool. Last year we did just about every possible different offer that they had. We did everything. We did SLS, we did Vault, we did CXO, we did Elite, we did we did BPW, we did, I think I said Vault already, but we did everything that we did. And it's hard to find mentors and coaches that you can both look up to and then are true from, look, he's on the podcast right now. Like, this is one of the guys that I was reading books of at like Kennected and socialX.
Yeah.
And then we got the opportunity to work with them as a client. And then we realized like, I've spent so much money on different coaches, consultants, and different things. And sometimes it's great, sometimes it's horrible, but every dollar I spend with these guys, like
with PBD and valuetainment,
it just comes back 10 times more. And they hold you to a different level, right? So meeting new people,
like
doing
what is that makes it that much different? Because we've all been doing online business for years now. We've all bought a bunch of different courses, coaches. Like, why have you been like, all right, kind of like putting blinders on here? He is my one like mentor, coach. Like, what is that like special quality there?
I think there's just like, they don't really look at things in terms of like, I'm not a client in their eyes for today or this month or next month or whatever. Like, I feel like they're really looking at us in like a 3, 5, 6, 8, 10-year vision. Right. So for them, like, at least this is kind of the way I view it, is like, I work with this guy named Aaron.
I love Aaron, dude.
He's a savage.
Yeah, really good dude.
He's awesome, but he's learning from Patrick, right?
Yeah.
And then I work with Patrick once a month and sometimes more if I'm lucky, right? But he holds me accountable, right? He's looking at the year, the 3 years, the whatever. He's connecting me with people, all these different things. And you know, one of the opportunities they gave us was like sponsoring SLS, like
at Mar-a-Lago,
like.
Dream.
We were like one of the smallest companies in the entire room. You know what I mean? But we're very aligned to what they're trying to do, and we fit very well. Like, there's not a lot
what their clients are trying to do as well.
100%. So I just feel like, you know, like when you're with certain courses, companies, etc., like they're like, all right, this is the next 90 days for us, right? And like you kind of go through it, and then like after the 90 days, it's like,
good luck.
Peace. Like, have fun. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
6 months later, you meet them again. They're like, who are you?
Yeah.
I just don't feel that here. Like, I feel like they genuinely are looking at like a very in-depth, like long-term, like if we make all of these young guys, girls, women, whatever, these small companies like massively successful, like that's going to help us a lot and it's going to help them a ton. You know what I mean? So the more they can do that, the better. So I feel like they identify like gems almost in like different areas and they really try and
double down on them.
Yeah, just give them opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just been a very good alignment from the beginning. And their people are just really good.
Yeah.
You know, like it's, you know, we're also 20 minutes from their office. We get to go there. I mean, it's just like, it's worked really well. And that's rare, right? So I'm not saying it would be a good fit for anybody, but it's, for us, I had wanted advising for so long that was like at a level where like I could 100x and still be asking questions to the, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of mentors, like, and you guys have probably seen this, where you join a community and then 3 months later, you're
like
doing more
past.
revenue, you have more employees, you
Yeah.
have, you know what I mean? And like, you're almost coaching
Them,
yeah.
the coach.
And I was doing that for years.
Yeah.
And
With Pat,
That'd be
it'll
tough.
be tough.
I don't know if that would work. So I don't know. I super fortunate and it was fun. And I mean, they're no bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
They're
They're
very
just professionals, bro. Like that's
Yeah.
how I describe them. Like when we went to a couple of their events, like everyone around them, they just like have an aura where they're just like so locked in.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, him in particular. He moves like the president. Like, they're like,
Yeah.
sir, we got to be out of here in 30 minutes. He's like, okay. And he
Roger.
Yeah.
And he's just a big dude.
He's a pretty big dude.
Big dude.
I don't know. I respect them a lot, and it's hard to respect somebody for a long period of time.
Yeah, and not kind of phase out of it.
Yeah, and it's just like you just find new ways to. All right, yeah, respect them again, again. You know?
What about signing whale clients? I feel like that's something that you've done like extremely well with this new business. Like obviously working with Valuetainment, and you have an impressive client roster as well. Like, what do you kind of contribute that to?
I think it goes back to like what we were talking about in the beginning. Like, I think a lot of people. All right, let's just take businesses that have been in business for a while.
Yeah.
Right. When they're thinking systems and stuff along those lines, like they usually think like IT manager or like shit, I don't even know what they'd call it. You know, it's just like they're so used to people being super engineering or developer or whatever, right? That for when we come into like bigger companies and they have really good engineering strength or really good developer people, right? Like really good IT backed people, we're like a breath of fresh air because they're going to out tech us, but we're going to strategize everything that they would be doing 10 times better than what they'd be doing it like, right? So when we do find bigger clients, it's like, one, when you're talking to the COO and you're talking to the CMO and you're talking to the sales director and you're talking to the CEO, it's a completely different conversation every single time, right? So we first had to like kind of learn like this is how the CEO is going to want to be spoken to. This is how the COO is going to want to, you know, be talked to and how the flow is going to go. This is how the CMO is going to work. This is how the sales director is going to work. This is the person that's going to try and block us every single time, right? So that kind of started happening. And I think it's just a breath of fresh air for companies like that to have people that bring more than just we're going to fix this shit for you to the table. It's like, hey, no matter how big the company is, going back to a consulting approach, like let's take a $100 million a year company and let's take the first hypothetical scenario that we talked about where it's like, all right, they generate 1,000 leads and 10% get booked. Imagine a company doing $100 million and their lead to booking percentage went up 2.5%.
Insane.
Millions of dollars. Now, imagine if their lead to booking went up 2.5%, their show rate went up 5%, and they started rebooking 5% more people. Now we're talking tens of millions of dollars, like potentially, right?
Yeah.
So when we go in and we lay it out that simply, most companies that have been around for a while, their people are just like not looking at things like that. So when you can kind of bring them back to like looking at the growth areas again, and not just like how do we keep the freaking train on the tracks, right? Like I think it builds a lot of trust with them, right?
And it helps you in your sales process because they can just start to easily visualize what the ROI is going to be.
Yeah.
Because you're going to drop the number on them at the end of the call and they're going to be like, oh shit, that's a lot of money. But if you're like, well, if you guys literally just increase this number right here and everything else stays equal, you'll have ROI in 2 months.
We're still, and 100%. And I mean, we're still working on like going up logo is something that like we actually don't necessarily want to do right now. Why? Because the bigger companies have 10, 15 different people that want to make decisions, right? You've got to review, check, go live. And it's just like the way we operate is like, we really like fast projects that are like, you're going to let us run with it. You trust us. Let us guide you through this. Right. And then on the other side, you guys tell us what you need, but let us build you the foundation. With the bigger companies, like they really don't like to change.
Yeah.
They really don't.
Yeah. It's like follow up with me in Q1 of 2025.
Yeah. Well, that, and it's also like, hey, right now your sales reps are doing all of these things. Like they should probably be doing 2 of these things. Everything else can be automated. Nah, that's crazy. And it's just like, it just makes sense. And they've been doing it this way for 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And whoever built that system is still there too. So it's like,
They're like tied to it.
they just don't like a lot of change, especially a lot of change fast. Right.
And if the company's big enough, because I've talked to a couple enterprise type accounts for ListKit, the person who is in charge of evaluating different vendors and people that they're working with, they just dwell over the dumbest fucking details.
Oh yeah.
Because it's their job to. Like if you
They're literally a goalie.
Yes.
Literally. They're a goalie.
It's weird because we're all running like pretty lean, quick, agile businesses and we're just way smaller. But like imagine your job title being like head of vendor relations. Of course, you're going to put way too much time into every little detail because like you got 8 hours in a day just to think all about this. So
yeah,
I agree with you there.
That person wakes up and thinks, how do I piss people off that are trying to help us? Like,
how can I crush a
miserable
salesman?
life.
how can I just crush their dreams and make it all about this one line in their contract that just doesn't make sense?
But their dreams were crushed, so I get it. Like, there's nobody ever woke up and little Johnny was like, "I'm going to be a vendor relations manager."
That's a real
when I'm
position
older.
at one of the companies we talked to.
Yeah. No, I mean,
It's like
you'll
big
have a lot of
companies in
people there,
general.
or if it's not like that
It's
specific
usually a
job title, will be
controller.
somebody. Yeah,
Controller.
Usually a controller.
Which is like the perfect job title.
Yeah. But I mean, dude, that's literally what the CEO hires these people to do.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, dude, our sweet spot right now, like our favorite type of clients is like sub 10 million. Like the sub 10 million clients, the sub 20 million clients, like, God, it's just so much fun. And you can help them drastically scale because usually if you think about it, 0 to 1 million, right? And then there's 1 million to like 5 million, 5 million to 10, and then 10 to 20, and then 20 to 50, right? There's like these tranches that people go through. When people are sitting between like that 5 and 20 million, everything is about systems. All of it. It's all about creating a machine, right? And then it's about bringing the right people in, and then it's about trading. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on, but dude, from 5 million to 20 million, like it's how well can you connect marketing with sales, sales with fulfillment, and then get fulfillment back into the sales process. Like if you can do that really well and you know, you can spend more here and it's going to create a lot more here. And these are your numbers. It's all about getting clear on your numbers and what the system looks like.
Yep.
And that's the only way that you're going to be able to crank past those tranches, right? It's like 1 million, 5 million. We're getting a CRM. You know what I mean? Like we're going to create a sales team. We're going to run paid ads instead of just basing off referrals. We're going to start developing processes and IDs and stuff like that. We're going to bring in more soloed positions. So it's not same person doing everything. And then 5 to 10 million, right? It's like, all right, well now we need to track everything, right? And then 10 million to 20 million. It's like, all right, well now we need to fix our costs on acquisition for sale or whatever the hell it is, right? It's all about the system. It's like usually when you're going from like that 1 million to 5 million, you're attracting the right people, right? So you get people in And then it's like super inefficient to go from 5 to 10 and then 10 to 20. And it's like, how simple can we make the system and the process so all we have to do is hold people accountable to their numbers and align them to more upward growth so we can develop leaders, which is what Patrick talks about all the time, right? And if your entire team at the leadership level is focused on the system and focused on like recreating everything all the time, nothing's documented, like you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're stuck. You know what I mean? So when we get to go into those companies, like we just get to take the full system shit off their plate and give them something that's super scalable and sustainable. And that allows their people just to get fired up and just charge, which then allows everybody else to develop a lot faster, which then if you look back a few months, years, whatever later, it's like, yeah, we helped with that.
Yeah,
you know
there's
what I mean?
a big
Like,
change.
That feels
and
good.
they see the numbers, so they can't hide from like their actual performance.
Yeah.
There's
100%.
transparency.
Yeah, it's measured, so we can actually track it and
hold them
grow it
accountable,
and
like
hold
you're
people
saying.
to things. Yeah, so and that's also a potential downfall. Is like some companies we go into, people are used to just doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yep.
Right, and then when we put in a system that actually brings all their numbers up every single day, dude, I mean it's real, but a lot of people will leave.
Yeah, because they don't want to be bothered.
Yeah, well, they also just don't want to change. If you go into a company and they have a big sales team, there's always going to be one guy at the top who's just like
Carrying all the weight.
like, well, maybe, hopefully not, but
Okay.
sometimes, yeah, right. The main closer is doing 75% of revenue or whatever. That's definitely a scenario, but not the one that I'm trying to go after. Is like the full team could be bought in. There's gonna be one guy at the top that's just like change, like no fucking way, like absolutely not. But what people don't realize is like that person is what everybody's looking at. So if this person doesn't want to actually sustain or grow or systemize anything, you're screwed.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
It's not going to
the
change.
whole bottom could shift and change and do things. The only way you're going to get the attention of this person, at least what we found, is like getting these people to produce and develop a lot faster because they're in the system. And then this person be like, oh shit, like they're catching up. Maybe I should, and you can kind of bring them in that way. But usually this person ends up leaving. Usually.
Or you just fire them. Like
Sometimes, yeah.
if they don't adopt the system, and there's not much else you could do, especially if they're just
Most
kinda
people don't
spoiling
fire
us.
them though. Most
Why?
people,
It's just a revenue. They can't part ways with it.
I think they're just unable to fire people. They've been here for 2 years. They've been here for 3 years. They've been here for 4 years. They've, whatever. So they just get to do whatever they want.
Same thing for them. It's like they don't like change either.
Yeah, for sure. So
Christian, you want to hit the lightning round?
Let's do it. All right, bro. Lightning round is a series of a few quick questions meant to get the brain thinking because they're supposed to be quick, but no one can get these quickly. So we'll start
Here we
with,
go.
if you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Elon Musk. Actually, this would be really interesting. Elon Musk.
And think about all three of them being at the same table.
That's what I'm thinking about right now.
He's got to be the most common answer.
Yeah,
so
Elon.
far. Yeah.
Well,
Probably.
I'm about halfway through his book, so that's one of the main reasons. I would say Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, just because that would be.
They'd finally fight.
that
They'd
would be
fight.
hilarious.
They'd
Or
fight
just
at
think
dinner.
about what they would talk about.
You wouldn't even understand.
Elon would just be poking at him with random things and like
Showing them memes and stuff.
Elon. Actually, you know what? This would be literally perfect. I'd have Patrick bet David.
Okay.
Because he would literally.
Who
Moderate.
moderated it?
Yeah,
I thought you were going to go Rogan.
He would or Joe Rogan. That would be a really good one too. Oh man.
That'd be a good one.
Either one, Joe or Patrick, and then I'd have Elon and I would have Zuckerberg. And the reason is, I wouldn't want it recorded. I would just want them to be able to talk about whatever because I feel like I would learn about literal
Everything.
world secrets and like
Yeah.
what's gonna happen and just all of these crazy things. And I could probably just sit back and listen. And it would
That'd be a great
nuts.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great answer.
Whoever watching this, like, because you can create AI, like,
They should
where
create
they talk
that.
to each other. They
A
should
PBD moderated dinner.
PBD or Joe Rogan moderated Elon Musk dinner with Zuckerberg.
That would
That
go
would be
viral.
nuts.
That'd be fire.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good one. Painted the picture for us too. My question in the lightning round is if you could put out one last piece of content that goes out to all your clients, all your followers, all your close family and friends, what's the message you want to leave them with?
Damn. That's a really hard question. I think I would say whenever, going back through everything that we've talked about, like whenever you're looking for the opportunity to help other people and like that comes first, you can usually use that as like a guidance or a compass for yourself. And for my family, like I've got a bunch of younger brothers, like got an older sister, and then friends wise, like, I don't talk to a lot of my friends anymore a lot. Like I see them every once in a while. I think everybody's just in this transformation phase right now. Like everybody's kind of like that 23 to like 30 age. And if I've done anything right and wrong, it's just been literally fall with my gut, and wherever there's a chance to help a lot of people and do things and bring people into a bigger vision and get fired up and excited about something, I've always done it. So lean on that, I guess, is what
That's really good.
Yeah.
I love that, bro.
Yeah.
Sweet. Last question. What is one goal you have this year that has nothing to do with money or business?
I'm writing a book.
Ooh, okay. But does that have something to do with business?
Yeah, it does. Question again? It was
one goal that you have that's just like non-monetary, not about business, just like something you want to accomplish this year.
I want to go on a 2-week vacation to Italy where I literally don't have my phone, my computer, anything. And I'm just going to eat
so much pasta.
all day,
dude, it's so
every
good.
day.
I've been there twice. What parts are you going to?
I don't know. I mean, I'll probably definitely go to probably like Lake Como.
Yep,
and
that's where I went.
Wherever the best food is, transparently.
Yeah.
Like, I'll probably go to multiple places. But yeah, last year I did a week. This year I want to do 2 weeks. I think last year I was at this point where like I was just freaking toasted. Like I was
Just burnt out.
burnt.
Yeah.
And actually the team was like, yo, you're leaving. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, you're leaving. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went on vacation for like a week, and I came back, and like the business was running. Everybody was doing better. Like it was actually great because I was white knuckling everything. No one could do anything more because I was just so tight on everything in the business. So they kind of forced me on vacation for a week, and came back and everything was running still solid.
Great feeling.
Yeah. So I was like, holy crap, this is great.
2 weeks next year.
Yeah, 2 weeks next year. So I think this year it's going to be, 2-week vacation in Italy. I've got one thing that comes to mind that I can't mention here. It's big, but it's, there's a couple things this year that'll be great.
Gonna be a good year.
This was fun, guys.
Yeah,
man.
super fun. Where can the audience find you and follow you just to keep up with all the things you're working on?
Yeah, I would say Instagram. We've got YouTube that's starting to roll. Just crossed 100 subscribers.
Let's go.
But yeah, I think
I'll subscribe right now. I need
actually
your fucking
do that
content.
because if you're watching this, go to YouTube, Aaron Platt, subscribe. There's not a lot there yet, but we're gonna be pushing there. Instagram, YouTube, and then whatever Gavin is.
TikTok, baby.
All right,
TikTok.
I guess TikTok. Instagram's probably the best spot. Yeah, it's
Love it,
just
bro.
at Aaron Platt.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you doing
Good
this,
stuff,
dude.
bro.
Appreciate you,
Dropping
brother.
the knowledge.
Thank you.
Good stuff, bro.